everyone. Welcome to the Safe House, brought to you by the SafeHouse Initiative. I'm Jeff Edwards, co-chair of the SafeHouse Initiative, and your host for today's podcast. We have a very exciting program for you today. Last week, Alex, his guest, Ken Fishkin, helped help us understand how to prevent having to MacGyver our incident response planning by not planning at all. So this week, real excited to welcome a new guest, Frank Angiolelli. Frank, why don't you introduce yourself and welcome to the Safe House.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation. So, yeah, as you said, my name is Frank Angiolelli. I am the Managing Director of mSOC, which stands for Managed Security Operations Center. And I have been doing threat detection, incident response, and running incident response programs for the better part of 12 years at the Fortune 500 level. Have several patents under my name. I've spoken at some of the largest conferences like DSIDES and FSISAC. And I have a background in emergency incident response as a firefighter and an EMT, which led to a natural career move into incident response. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you. Hey, Alex, it's your show, buddy. Take away.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Jeff. And it's an absolute pleasure to have you here, Frank. After so many years of you being my mentor, I am honored to have you as a guest on this pod series within the Safe House Initiative, discussing the top 10 most common incident response plan flaws. And thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your busy day.
Thanks, Alex. It's a pleasure, and we all learn from each other, so I appreciate it.
You know, it's an incredible industry where we are learning from each other and talking about each other. Today's episode is really going into and delving into who does what, orchestrating the roles within an incident response plan or even during an incident response incident. So the problem that we've been seeing throughout the industry and a lot of the experience that I've seen personally is when there is an incident response plan and they don't have the roles and responsibilities assigned out, there are a lot of inefficiencies and there is a lot of confusion that takes place. Frank, can you give us a little bit of your experience on what you've seen throughout your long career in the industry?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Alex. This is definitely an important part of running incident response as a program for the company. When we're doing that, we're thinking about roles. It's very important to keep in focus that the goal is to protect the company. So it doesn't have anything to do with any individual. It's about assembling a team that protects the company from impact, damage, etc. And so when you're doing that, what I have seen be very successful in establishing roles takes its cue from the incident management system, which comes from emergency services. And so as an incident comes across, what works very effectively is to have a designated incident coordinator. Some people will refer to this as an incident commander, but that incident coordinator is the one that is responsible for getting on the call, briefing everybody, collecting the situation, identifying potential steps along with the rest of the team, and then is responsible for following up with everybody in the incident. It's one of the most important roles to establish when you're building an incident response program. That could be a full-time role. It could be a part-time role. We just want to establish, for example, if it were you, Alex is the incident coordinator here. And then we want everyone aligned that any piece of the incident Alex needs to know about and needs to track.
That's very interesting. And who would you say would need to be that incident commander? Someone who's technical, someone who has a leadership role, someone who has a manager role? Who would you say would be that right person for that incident commander role?
The best people that I've seen in the incident coordinator role are the ones that ask the best questions. It is good, certainly, to have a technical foundation, to have come up from that background, because it does help guide people as what questions you need to ask. But ultimately, what I've seen running incident response over the long run is that it is actually about asking. Did you check this? You did. Okay. Did you check it that way? No, you didn't. Okay. Can you get back to me? Did we follow through on that? Did you get that back? Did anybody reach out to privacy? Did we reach out to legal? So it's a little bit of almost like being a team quarterback. It's not so much an authoritative position, even though some people call it the incident commander. It's more about getting the team assembled, asking the right questions, following through, and enabling the team.
It's amazing. What would you say is some challenges that this incident commander could face during a incident response engagement?
There are a few challenges when you're working an incident response program inside of a company. It's really important that the senior leadership, all the way up at the top, align to this function. And the reason why is because as an incident coordinator, you're going to reprioritize other people's work. You have to, by definition. So if you're reaching out, for example, to an IT team or a web development team and asking them to go collect logs for you, they might respond to you and say, I can't do that. I've got a release I need to finish by the end of the day. When something like that happens, the IR process can fall down. And so it's super important to have that alignment up and down. The second piece that I found was incredibly effective with that incident coordinator is what I refer to as going up the ladder. Meaning if I'm running an incident response program or I'm guiding a team that's building one, what I tell them is you cannot say no to us. Meaning, if we reach out to an IT person and they're non-responsive, I will go up to the next person and up to the next person. And where does the incident response team stop? At the CEO. We don't stop because we have to reprioritize other people's work. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so essentially the challenge is that if people don't communicate and get things done, you can go around them to the next person above them to see if they can help out with accomplishing that task.
That's right. And that's the reason why the senior leadership, the top cover, sort of an alignment as an organization is super important. In reference to your question about an incident coordinator coming in as a consultant, being called in as a third party, one of the biggest challenges there is that you're not going to be familiar with that environment. And so the initial briefing, the collection of information, the transfer of knowledge in the very beginning is super important, as well as figuring out who your primary contact and the roles are. That really does help smooth things over. Sometimes you'll end up on a call if you're doing this type of work, and you'll get pulled in, and somebody will say, "Oh, that's part of our PCB system." Say, "Okay, I'm sorry. Can you describe for me what that is? What does that mean?" And so that situational awareness, it's almost that situation report as you go into an incident, is incredibly important and can be challenging. Most importantly, because emotions do tend to run a little bit high during an incident.
Absolutely. So, what would you say are the key strategies for establishing those clear roles and responsibilities? I know we discussed the challenges. So, how would you go about building a strategy around establishing who does what? Whether it's from the incident commander or is it from the CEO? Who's assigning those roles out and who's abiding by them? Is it just the incident commander or is it the whole team now knows, hey, Joe on IT, you're going to be doing the forensic collections. Hey, Steve on IR, you're going to be running SOC analytics. Like, is that how easy it's going to be, or is there more in-depth information there that we don't, that you know that I don't?
It's a great question to begin with how to set this up successfully. And so if we look at a organization that's building an incident response program, it really starts at the CISO and CIO level, where they begin to differentiate the difference between major incident management or IT management and cybersecurity incident response, because they're slightly different. They're teammates. And then we want to socialize out through the organization that you are building this program. And it's going to be reporting up under, whoever, the chief security officer. And the chief security officer helps socialize across all their peers and everybody in the org that might be involved. We are building an incident response program. We're assigning, let's say Alex, to be an incident coordinator who's coming on board. Here's what to expect. If we have an incident, we're going to stand up a bridge. Alex is going to come on. He's going to drive that incident. He's going to ask your team members, we need your cooperation and help. And that sets up the organization to understand an important part of incident response, which is it's not the SOC. It's not the incident coordinator. It's the whole company. And so when an incident goes off, we want the company, the whole organization aware. You might be pulled into an incident because you're a subject matter expert. We're going to rely on you. And the goal is to protect the company. Please cooperate if they do reach out to you.
Do you have any life experiences where, as a incident commander or as the managing director of mSOC, where you had to be this incident commander, assigning roles out, assigning responsibilities out, and making sure the tasks are getting done?
Yes. Have certainly done that in the corporate world, done it at mSOC, and we've handled some substantial incidents. And, as you're doing that, one of the things that I've found, which has been incredibly successful, is consistent communications. What I mean by that is when an incident goes off, I have a battle-hardened template. And that template covers the key questions that briefs everybody. We're going to send that out to numerous people. It is all the key constituent components in that communication so we can begin the process. And it's also a little bit about setting up for other people what to expect. Meaning, if we have a large-scale incident, it is wise to advise everybody we're going to be setting up daily meetings where we're all going to come back together as a team, report progress, check on progress, align, and move forward. And these types of strategies where you're letting everybody know what is about to happen before it happens helps smooth over any initial challenges or it's about you're already dealing with the unexpected. So if you can reduce unexpected inputs to other team members by telling them what's going to happen, it really does help.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And giving that information even beforehand and then following up on it, always getting that reminder out is extremely important. One last question for you. How do you ensure that as a CEO, that everyone is actually doing what they need to do to get up the fastest way possible? I look at incident response in multiple different facets. And as a CEO of a company, my biggest stress is my business being down. And I need to make sure that every single person here is doing what they need to do. How do I, as a CEO, know that and ensuring that this was the fastest way to restore after an incident or before an incident takes place?
Well, if you're the CEO of a company and you're dealing with a situation where for example, substantial part or all of your business has been interrupted, if you don't already have in place a subject matter expert, an experienced incident responder, it is definitely wise to reach out to a third party that specializes in this. Why? Because you would want that confidence, that experience. It's a little different from relying on, folks that do incident response when they are able to, particularly if you're dealing with an existential threat. The CEO will try to, help balance the business operations, the communications, and then who's assigned. At the end of the day, that's about having confidence that the correct approach is being done, making sure that all the team members are aware of the key business components and factors involved in incident response. For example, which systems have to go back online, and then ensuring that there's a framework by which everyone gets together, receives the briefing, and just like in a team sport, they're all running in the same direction and they understand what the goal looks like. Once you have those pieces in place, the rest of the incident will come together. You've got the best and brightest making the best decisions with the best information, and that's the best you can get.
You hear it from Frank first. Engaging your incident response external providers, Jeff, is the way to go. And we'll be talking about that in just a few weeks. Jeff, you want to take on from here?
Yeah. So, hey, thanks, Alex. Great job, as always. Hey, Frank, our one of the things we do here at the Safe House is we like to leave just a nugget, if you will, a recommendation. If you had one thing to do to improve your position, what would you suggest to our audience? Say one thing you could do today or tomorrow.
One thing they would do, I would have a phrase to respond to that. Preparation in advance of the need leads to clarity in the moment of action. If you are prepared, you will know clearly what to do. Even if it's not perfect, you'll know the framework, the pieces. So perhaps that nugget would be run a tabletop scenario.
Yeah.
Where something really substantially goes wrong, and just talk it through with your team members. Just even doing that once, you'll learn a lot of valuable lessons.
So basically, do your tabletops and hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Yes, I would agree. And thanks, Alex, for the opportunity, and Jeff to chat with you.
Frank, I tell you, it's been a real pleasure. And Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit more what's coming up next week? Because this is, we'll be moving into week number 3.
Yeah, next week we have a really interesting one. We're going to be talking about one where I only saw this a few times, where basically incident response plans were siloed out, where you had response plans for the tech, you had response plans for IT, you had response plans for incident response, you had response plans for basically all these different parts of the organization, but none of them were interconnected. And so what we're going to discuss is how to unsilo your organization's response efforts and how you can communicate between the different parties, whether it's legal, whether it's IT, finance, audit, HR, and then going into strategies on how to do that as well. And we're going to have a guest who is very near and dear to my heart as well. Not like Frank, who's been a mentor, but a very close colleague of mine. His name is Aaron Goldstein, and he is the head of incident response at a company called Total. And so I'm really excited to have him here and give his insight and experience to discuss that topic.
Looking forward to it, Alex. It's been a great series so far. Looking forward to the next. On behalf of the SafeHouse Initiative, Frank Angiolelli, thank you ever so much for your contributions. We much appreciated. You're going to help a lot of folks out.
Appreciate it, folks. Thank you.
That's our podcast for today. I'm Jeff Edwards for the SafeHouse Initiative. Thanks for joining us, and remember, be safe, be resilient, and be kind to each other. For more information about the SafeHouse Initiative, please use your mobile device to scan the QR code on the screen, or send us an email at info@safehouseinitiative.org, or visit us on our website, safehouseinitiative.org. We look forward to hearing from you.